How's it going, you crazy kids, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about something that no doubt has affected all of us who are artistic creatives, and that is imposter syndrome. I don't know anyone who has not at some point in their career gone through it and maybe still suffers from it. I can tell you for up until about 5 years ago, so for pretty much 90% of my career, I had imposter syndrome. It hung over me like a dark cloud, and in all seriousness, it used to debilitate me. The anxiety I had around it, I was thinking almost on a daily, someone's going to find out that I don't belong here, that I shouldn't be doing this. And the reason I held my imposter syndrome was because in my chosen path as an audio engineer, mastering engineer, back in the day, the classical way of going through the system was as thus. There was no formal education. There was no apprenticeship as such. There was formal. So you go to a studio, they take you in as a runner. So you're the person that made the coffee, swept the floors, did all the menial tasks. You'd be working incredibly long hours. And if you passed muster and you were good, then they'd allow you to become an assistant. You'd be a little bit hands-on in sessions, and then you do that for a little while, and then you proved yourself. To that point, you probably get promoted into an in-house engineer, or perhaps you would go off and become a freelance. That, and there was technical training that went along with it. A lot of my contemporaries and peers were also, generally speaking, way more technically au fait with me. I still have very little to no technical chops. A lot of them played a musical instrument. I was a hack at best on a guitar. And so that was the way going through, and then you work your way up into becoming a freelance engineer. I didn't go down that path. My path was quite unorthodox. So I never held a job in a studio per se. I, as a youngster, went over to the United States and Canada, dropped in at different studios, made a pest of myself, and just observed and watched and learned and created my learning through observation and asking questions, to the point where I thought that I think I've got enough knowledge, information now to do this on my own. So quite different to everybody else. So all this while I'm thinking to myself, I'm not one of the boys, I don't belong. One day someone's going to come along and realize this, and I'm going to get called out, and I'll get cancelled on social media, and all this kind of nonsense that I built up in my head about how I felt that I was not valid, didn't belong, and ultimately an imposter. So what helped me, and what I'm going to share with you today, is for those of you particularly who are established doing what you do, I'm going to invite you to have a think about this. And this is something that my therapist Carlos at the time invited me to think about. Now, so 5 years ago when I sat down in these sessions explaining my story, he sat down and said, okay, I get it. And he said, well, just have a look at all the work you've done. Look at all the success you've had. How can you feel that you are an imposter? More importantly, he said, what makes you so special to think that all these people wanted to come and work with you when they could have worked with anybody in the world, and yet they chose to work with you and work with their music, something that's so important to them? Do you really feel you're that special that the world got together in some kind of conspiracy to feel sorry for you and make a charity case out of you? Do you really think you're that special? Now, when he said that, that really made me think. I thought, wow, he's right. He's right. I'm not that special. And the likelihood of that scenario playing out was just, ludicrous. It's a stupid thing to think and buy into. And so it started me thinking a little bit differently about myself. And here's the thing, another point. Quite often we confuse humility and we wrap that up as humiliation. I certainly did myself. So when people would say nice things and be very complimentary to me, I would dismiss it. And because that was my way, falsely, of thinking, oh, this is me, putting myself in my place, trying to remain humble, especially here in Australia, because we do have this tall poppy syndrome here going on, and that's a subject for another day. And so I just keep cutting myself down, and I wouldn't even accept compliments from people. And because again, I thought I was an imposter. So I think it's important that we remember to be humble. It's important to remember that there's always things to learn, but it's also important to acknowledge how far you come and objectively look at your reality. So hopefully for those of you, particularly those of you who are doing well, making a living, have had long careers, who still feel like you're an imposter, I'm going to invite you to have a think about that. You're not an imposter. Yes, you have room to grow, room to evolve, but in order to have achieved what you've achieved, you can't do it by being an imposter. You cannot bullshit a bullshitter. All right, that's all I've got for you today. Please remember to like, subscribe, do all those wonderful things in the hope that other people who may benefit from this video will see it. I do love you crazy kids. Please remember, be nice to each other, but more importantly, be nice to yourselves. And we'll see you in another video.